The house was filled with a quiet excitement. The scent of freshly baked cookies lingered in the air, and sunlight poured through the curtains as the family prepared for a new beginning. Claire, the mother, smoothed out the couch cushions while Mark, her husband, checked the time on his phone for the third time. Their daughter, Emily, sat on the rug in front of the television, her doll in her lap, humming softly as if nothing big was about to happen. But her fingers twitched slightly, a nervous habit she hadn't outgrown. The knock came gently, a soft, almost hesitant sound. Claire's heart leapt. She exchanged a look with Mark and then moved quickly to the door. There, standing with the social worker, was a small boy no older than 6. His eyes were wide and dark, his frame thin beneath an oversized sweater. He clutched a backpack with both hands, silent and watchful. "This is Noah," the social worker said with a warm smile. "He's been very brave." Claire knelt down to his level. "Hi, Noah. We're so happy you're here." He gave a small nod, still silent, still staring as if memorizing everything. Mark reached out to take the boy's bag. "Come on in, buddy. Let's show you around." Noah stepped inside slowly, his gaze sweeping the living room. Emily, still on the floor, looked up at him. Their eyes met for a moment. But instead of smiling or standing to greet him, Emily's expression changed. Her brows furrowed, and she hugged her doll tightly. She stood abruptly and took a step back, as if she'd seen something that frightened her. Claire noticed immediately. "Sweetie, this is Noah. He's going to be your new brother." Emily didn't answer. She looked at Noah again, then turned and walked briskly toward the hallway. Her small shoulders were tense, her steps quick. "Emily." Claire called after her, confused. "I don't want to play," Emily said over her shoulder, disappearing into her room. Noah stood still, his face unreadable, but his eyes dimmed. Mark and Claire exchanged a look, confusion, concern, and something else. This wasn't the reaction they expected. It wasn't shyness. It was something colder. Claire forced a smile, kneeling by Noah again. "Let's get you settled, okay?" But her mind was already racing. Something wasn't right. The next few days passed with a strange heaviness hanging over the house. On the surface, everything looked normal. Meals were made, beds were tucked in, and the same routines carried on. But beneath it all was a growing discomfort that neither Claire nor Mark could ignore. Emily kept her distance from Noah with a quiet intensity that was both uncharacteristic and unsettling. She didn't throw tantrums or yell. She simply avoided him. Always. At breakfast, Noah sat quietly at the table, picking at his cereal while Claire tried to spark conversation. Emily would enter the kitchen, glance once at him, then choose a chair as far away as possible. When Claire offered to pour juice for both kids, Emily shook her head. "I'll do it myself," she muttered, carefully avoiding Noah's side of the table as if it were lava. They had tried to encourage bonding. Claire suggested building a pillow fort together, something Emily usually adored. But as soon as Noah crawled in, Emily crawled out. "I don't want to play anymore," she said with flat finality. Mark tried bringing them both outside to help feed the chickens. Emily clung to his side, refusing to go near Noah, even when he stood quietly at the fence, offering corn to the birds. That night, Claire found Emily curled in a tight ball under her blanket, wide awake. "You're not sleeping?" Claire asked softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. Emily shook her head. "He's always watching." Claire blinked, surprised. "Noah, sweetheart, he's just shy. He's trying to fit in, just like you did when you started preschool." But Emily's eyes were fixed on the door, her voice barely above a whisper. "He remembers me. I know he does." Claire leaned in, confused. "From where?" Emily wouldn't answer. She pulled the covers over her head and turned away. Down the hall, Noah sat on the edge of his bed, staring out the window. He hadn't said much since arriving, but his silence felt deeper than normal shyness. He rarely asked for anything, never caused trouble. Yet somehow, the air between him and Emily was charged with something unseen. By the fourth day, Claire and Mark exchanged whispered concerns after bedtime. "She's terrified of him, but she won't say why," Claire said, folding laundry with restless hands. "And he just stares at her sometimes, like he's trying to remember something." Mark frowned. "Maybe it's just adjustment. Maybe she's acting out because things are changing." Claire shook her head. "No, it's more than that. Something happened. I can feel it." Neither of them knew what to do next. But one thing was certain, this wasn't just a case of sibling jealousy. There was a history between their children, one they hadn't known existed. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock in the hallway. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows, carrying the sounds of distant rustling trees. Claire sat on the edge of Emily's bed, the pink bedspread slightly wrinkled under her hands. Emily was sitting cross-legged in the middle of it, her arms wrapped tightly around her stuffed rabbit, its once white fur now gray with love and time. Her face was pale, and her eyes looked tired, heavy with something more than just sleepless nights. Claire had been patient, waiting, gently asking, giving space, but tonight, something told her it was time to ask again. "Emily," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face, "I need you to help me understand. Why won't you talk to Noah? Why are you so scared of him?" Emily didn't answer right away. Her grip on the stuffed rabbit tightened. Her eyes stayed on her lap, unmoving. "It's not because he's new," Claire continued, keeping her voice steady. "This feels different. And I think something's hurting you, but I can't help unless you tell me." Silence. Then Emily whispered, "I've seen him before." Claire's heart paused. "Before? You mean, before we adopted him?" Emily nodded slowly, still not looking up. Her voice trembled. "I remember him. From the other place. Before I came to live here. Before the fire." Claire's breath caught. A fire. Emily had been so young when they'd adopted her, barely 5. She had been in foster care for a short time, the details sketchy, the records incomplete. Emily had never talked about it. The therapists had said it might be best not to push. But now, he was there, Emily said, her voice now hoarse. "At the old house. I remember his eyes. He used to watch me from the hallway. He never spoke. Just watched." Claire's skin prickled. "What else do you remember, sweetheart?" Emily finally looked up, her eyes glossy. "One night, there was yelling. And someone was crying. Then there was smoke. A lot of it. I couldn't find the door. I was so scared." Claire gently pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly, heart pounding. "You're safe now. You're here with us." "I thought he was gone," Emily whispered against her shoulder. "I thought I'd never see him again. But then you brought him home." Claire stroked her back, trying to steady her own thoughts. This couldn't be a coincidence. Could it? The foster system wasn't always perfect. Kids got moved around. Files got lost. But what were the odds? Later that night, after Emily had finally fallen asleep, Claire tiptoed out of the room and went straight to the computer. She pulled up the adoption records. The dates, the locations, the old case files they'd been given, so vague, so incomplete. Then she pulled up Noah's. Her blood ran cold. Both children had been in the same county, in the same temporary home. Same foster agency. Weeks apart. Claire stared at the screen, realization dawning. Emily hadn't imagined it. Noah had been there. Claire sat motionless in the dim light of the living room, the glow from the laptop screen casting a faint blue hue on her face. Her hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through the sparse documentation, foster placements, temporary guardianship notes, facility transfers. It was all there in pieces, scattered like puzzle fragments. But enough had surfaced to confirm what Emily had said. The children had crossed paths in their early lives, both placed in the same foster home that had later burned down in a reported electrical fire. Details were thin, but the overlapping dates, the matching addresses, it was too much to dismiss. The next morning, Claire and Mark sat side by side with Emily in a family therapist's office. The room was calm, softly lit, filled with plush chairs and gentle voices. Emily held her rabbit close, her legs dangling from the seat as she stared at the rug beneath her feet. The therapist, a warm woman with kind eyes, spoke slowly, gently guiding Emily through her memories, careful not to overwhelm. And then came the moment. Noah was brought into the room, accompanied by another counselor. He entered quietly, eyes lowered, hands in his sleeves. He hesitated before sitting down, but when he finally glanced up and saw Emily, something shifted. His gaze wasn't hostile or strange, it was recognition. A faint, fragile recognition that even he didn't fully understand. The therapist asked simple questions, using toys and drawings to help them both communicate. At first, Noah barely spoke. But when shown a picture of a small, shared bedroom, he softly muttered, "I used to sleep on the floor." Then, a pause. "She had a bunny. Like that one." Emily flinched. Claire held her breath. Mark took her hand. I remember you, Noah said, looking directly at Emily now. You cried when the man shouted. The room stilled. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, and her lips parted in a soft gasp. I thought you were scary, she whispered. You just watched. Noah blinked, confused. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, too. Their voices were small, honest, unfiltered, two children trapped in memories too big for them to carry alone. The therapist nodded gently, allowing the silence to hold space for what they were both remembering. That night, back home, the atmosphere was different. It was quiet again, but not the tense quiet of before. It was the kind of quiet that came after a storm, the kind where you could breathe again. Emily sat at the kitchen table, coloring. Noah sat beside her, not too close, but near enough. She wasn't talking much, but she wasn't leaving either. Occasionally, she glanced at him, curious, uncertain, but no longer afraid. Claire watched from the doorway, her heart both heavy and light. Healing wouldn't happen overnight, but for the first time since Noah had arrived, she saw something she hadn't before: possibility. A chance to mend two broken hearts that had once known each other in pain, and might, in time, find comfort in each other again. A journey that began in fear was finally moving toward understanding.